everyone, and welcome again to this third live broadcast from St. Olavsleden, the St. Olav Trail. Tonight we are in Revsund, 150 kilometers from the beginning of the trail. And Revsund is, for one, a beautiful place, a small little village, but it's also kind of a junction of pilgrim trails, because it's not only St. Olavsleden who passes by. At this place, the trail to Trondheim also goes through another pilgrim trail, which is called Norgevägen. And we will talk about that a little bit later with the hosts of this evening, which is Michael and Johannes from the Church of Revsund. Last Tuesday, if you were watching us, we talked about the nature, flowers and animals and insects and everything. Today will be a little bit more practical, and we will talk about the trail that pilgrims are walking, and we will focus on accommodation, how to spend 29 nights during the trail, because that's usually what it takes for most pilgrims to do the whole trail. Some people combine tent and indoor accommodation, and some choose only one of them. And we have two guests who both have done the trail and today are working with the trail, but specifically also accommodation that you will learn a lot from. Tonight we have chosen to start this broadcast from inside the Revsund kyrka, the Church of Revsund. And it's a magnificent building, and you will see it from the outside in a little while. It was built in 1876. And as I think I've said before, it's not me that should welcome you to this evening. It's actually we all who should be welcomed by the church itself. And tonight I will start by being welcomed from Michael, who works at the Church of Revsund.
I think you can call me director of music.
It's great to be able to talk to a musician, but unfortunately it's too far to the organ, so we will not have music tonight.
Many steps.
But what we do have, and what we would like to learn more about with you, is that this church, who was built in 1876, is built on the place where the old medieval church was built.
That's correct. And in front of the window we have a model of the old church. So I'm going to show you that now. And we're going to lift the roof of the old medieval church and look inside it.
Perfect. Let's have a look at the church. The church we are in now is built of stone. But what is this?
This is a stone church.
This also?
Yes, rather large, built in the 12th century. And if we lift the roof, be very careful here. We can have a look inside it. This model was built by Axel Nordin. He was born in 1841, and he was born and raised in the vicarage here in Revsund, because his father was the vicar, Nils Nordin. So he had good knowledge of the appearance of the old medieval church. And inside we can see some of the rich 17th century furnishings. We have the pews. They weren't there in the 12th century.
Did you stand up from the beginning?
Yes. Pews is an invention from the Reformation. And here we can see the pulpit, high up on the wall. And the same pulpit is behind me now. It was built in 1651 by Per Iversson.
So this medieval church did not have this pulpit from the beginning?
No. They refurbished it, I think, in the 17th century.
But this was preserved and moved to this new church?
Yes, that's correct. And if we look close, we see an opening here. It's called a triumphal arch, and it leads into the chancel. And in the chancel, At the back of the church, we can have a look at the old altarpiece, the back of the old altarpiece. And that is still preserved, and we have it in the new church. It's about there, you can see it. It was built in the 1660s, and it's a beautiful piece.
With many, many small statues on it.
Yes, that's correct. It will take me 15 minutes to tell you all about it, so we'll leave that for now, I think.
Yes.
So that was the main altar. And in the entrance, in the triumphal arch, there was a triumphal crucifix, also called the Rood Cross. And that's still preserved today. It dates from the 15th century, and it's hanging on the wall here in this new church. So you can watch it when you come here. And to the right of the main altar, the high altar, was a small side altar that was dedicated to Virgin Mary. So there was a small statue of the Virgin Mary. Mm. And to the left of the main altar, there was another side altar that was dedicated to a local saint, in this case, St. Olaf. And that statue is also preserved, so we can go and have a look at them now if you want to.
Please, I think they are over here in the back of the church. And you told me an interesting story I didn't know, that these two statues were also representing the fact that men and women were divided back then.
They sat on each side, not mixed. So the women sat on the side of the altar dedicated to Mary, and the men on the side dedicated to St. Olaf. And here we have Mary. She is missing her crown, and parts of the Jesus child is missing too, his head and feet. And Mary is also missing her scepter that she's holding in her right hand.
It's
and
not.
She has the red cloth, red the symbol of love, and blue the symbol of the heavens.
And it's not strange that things are missing, because these are really old.
Yeah, from the 13th century. Yeah. And over here we have St. Olaf himself. He is also missing his crown and his axe. His attribute, his symbol was the axe. And you can see remains of it in his right hand. In his left hand, he was probably holding an orb, a part of the regalia. So he's on the right side in this new church, but he should be placed in the front.
Well, it's so magical that they are here still, these statues. And if there is a pilgrim passing by Revsund, is it possible to go inside and have a look?
Oh yes, oh yes. From 1st of June to 21st of August, the church is open Monday to Friday from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3:30 in the evening. If you pass by other times of the year, you can fetch some staff here and they will open the church for you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Michael, for that. I have a colleague of you whose name is Johannes. Please come, because we would like to talk a little bit more about the area, about the pilgrimage around here. But we have now looked at Olof, but I know that there has been other, what you call famous people passing by, like the Saint of Birgitta and the Swedish old king, Magnus Eriksson. What do we know about them, all three of them?
Magnus was a king of Norway and of Sweden and of Scania, which he clearly emphasized, because Scania was then had for most of the time of the medieval period, it was an integrated part of Denmark. But he passed here in the early part of 1350, and we have a letter that states his intention to go to Allsock, the commemoration for St. Olaf, on the 29th of July in Trondheim. And St. Bridget, of course, she's one of, in the Roman Catholic Church, she's considered to be one of the 3 patron saints of Europe. And she was, well, to put it bluntly, she was a pain in the ass to King Magnus and to several other prominent people as well. And she was clearly someone who had the ability to speak up to power, although she was from the very top echelons of society herself.
But they were both passing by on their way to Trondheim because of a pilgrimage themselves, maybe?
Yes, so we can't say for sure that they were taking this route, because there were various bifurcations in Jämtland, but we can say that Trondheim was a very important pilgrimage site throughout the entire medieval period.
We will actually, you and me, take a walk outside so that all of you can follow us and see what the church looks from the outside. And on the way, I do have a question for you. Because Revsund was like a junction for pilgrims in the Middle Age and after that, of course, because there are 2 pilgrim roads that goes from here. What do we know about the other one, which we are not talking about, Norgevägen?
Well, if as someone who's interested in history, and we don't have too much information, but if we can get camera right now, in the northwestern direction from here, we follow the St. Olaf Trail, and the straits, the Revsund is right on the other side of those trees, and in that direction, for the first few kilometers to southwest, we follow the Jämtnorge Trail, and it's, well, during the medieval period, it wasn't too many people living in Jämtland, and the Jämtnorge Trail, it has you need to reach a higher altitude to cross what is today the border, but it is a tad bit shorter to get to Trondheim that way. So I would say that there probably were more pilgrims during the Middle Ages that took the northern road that you will follow all the way to Stiklestad and Trondheim. But since the Jämtnorge way was shorter, it wasn't unused at all, and there are some remains that we're able to see, and that has just recently been removed. That clearly shows us that it was used during the period.
Let's go on and go.
Sure.
We have a little table over here. Is there anything we can say about this church? When we were driving here, my colleague Tilda, who is behind the camera, she said it looks a little bit like cream, the color. What do we know about the church now?
Well, it was like many Swedish churches and parishes. During the mid-19th century, there was a huge population growth, and we can see it in all of Europe. And one had the ability to build a new church. It was a prestige part. And also the old church that Mikael showed you, it wasn't that large, really. Meaning that everyone couldn't get a seat. So although the fire authorities would say that the maximum here that we are allowed to have now for a service or for a concert is 650 people. When the church was inaugurated back in the 1870s, it could probably hold like 2,300 people, although then people were sitting in every window cornice and every place possible in the church, really. And since they also, several of them had been malnourished, they were smaller.
Well, we are in Sweden. We are a Protestant Lutheran country, church. Explain what pilgrimage means to us in this country.
Oh, that's a very large generalization. But as a Lutheran priest, I would say that although we are not dealing or understanding, as they were in the medieval period, of pilgrimage as a natural part of an economy of indulgences, where it was could be a penance, for instance. But I would say that we are able to see today, and that's fairly possible for all the viewers as well, to realize that we are, as mankind is humankind, we are disconnected from essentially truth, beauty, and good to an extent that we really don't like. And that gives us several problems. And this disconnection means that when we see truth, when we meet beauty, and when we approach good, it is both something that we desire, because there is a longing for what we are lacking, but there is also causing great frictions and pain to us, because we realize that we're not up to the standards of it. And since, as a Christian, I do believe that we have our origin in someone, not in something in general, but in someone in particular, who is true, who is beautiful, and who is good, meaning that anyone who is in any way, shape, or form searching for truth, beauty, and good, whether they know it or not, they are aiming for God in one sense or another. Meaning that it's great to see people on pilgrimage, no matter what is their motive, because I think that they are able to, at least in some parts, disconnect from the sort of problematic parts of modern life, and hopefully get a real and true connection with what is true and what is beautiful and what is good in nature, in the silence in the church, in meeting with people, whether they are pilgrims or whether they are people that lives in the region. And any such ability is a good thing. And just to finish that question off, since you were hinting that this might be coming, I realized that the prophet Jeremiah says something rather fun, and that's well worth noticing, that thus says the Lord, stand at the crossroads. I mean, we are literally at one here, whether you're going to take Jämtnorgevägen or the St. Olaf Trail. Stand at the crossroads and look and ask for the ancient paths, both of them are ancient, so that's not a problem, where the good way lies, and walk in it, and find rest for your souls. And that rest is something I really hope that people are able to find on the trail, although it might not be the rest for the feet, but it might be the rest for their heart, their mind, and their soul.
It's really nice, and I would just like to say that in the first program we did from Selånger, we did have 2 pilgrims who were going to start the next day on their pilgrimage. And when they were explaining what they were searching for, it was, I would say, the silence, to go into themselves and search for silence and in the nature very much. So it's very much what you are telling us.
Well, that seems to be a very usual part of what people are searching for. I try to talk with every pilgrim that I see during the summer months here in the parish, and also in other parts of the county where I happen to be. And the search for silence, especially for those that come from continental Europe, is a huge thing, really.
Yeah. Do you think it's important for the Protestants and for us to preserve and take care of the pilgrims' trails? Because I think they have been a little bit forgotten in this part of the country, in this part of the Europe, in this part of the world for some while.
Well, sure, and as everything, we're able to blame Martin Luther for it, which I personally really would like to do. I think he was flat out wrong on this one. I think there is although there isn't an indulgence to such, there is really something about trying to search for silence so that you're able to find what is true and what is beauty and what is good. And I do believe that pilgrimages are something that in a way it connects to the modern man, due to the fact that it's so completely different from everything that we are able to place a high value on otherwise in life. It takes quite a long time. No one's going for a 29-day vacation. I mean, that's an 18th century grand tour, or at least half one. So it's a long journey, and it's an arduous one. Although you're able to pre-book some things, it's really not your sort of everything is served and everything is ready for you experience, you ought to do something yourself. And I believe that this difference is clearly something that people could think is attractive, really. And although I would like to see everyone take the St. Olaf Trail, or at least a whole lot of people, everyone could be a bit crowded. But if that isn't possible, if someone who's watching this is considering a journey to Walsingham or to Santiago or to Rome or to Jerusalem or to the local parish church or to the diocesan cathedral or anything, fine, just do it, because that is not going to leave you unchanged, and that change is probably going to do some really good thing for you and for those people that you hold dear.
I think that's a really good finishing words. It goes into the heart. Go and search your heart wherever you do it, here or somewhere else.
That's a rather good thing to say. And for those who are watching, welcome to Jämtland County and welcome to Revsund.
Thank you so much, Johannes. For all of you watching, we are now outside and there is a little bit windy today. So if you have problems with the sound, you can write in the chat and we will see what we can do about it. But now we have arranged our little table that we've had before. And for my two next guests, I will invite them here and we will have some chatting about the trail and especially the accommodation. So I have to wave now and get Jenny to come over to the place. I'm carrying some papers, and this one I was gonna bring out forward when you were coming, Jenny. Hello, Jenny.
Hi, Marlene.
You are working with St. Olavsleden almost every day, but before you started working with it, I know that you were running the whole trail, so you know what this is.
I do. It's a trophy you carry with you afterwards. And that's true, I did in 2018. I ran the whole trail, which was an amazing experience.
And this that you were bringing, the trophy, it's the pilgrim passport, and we did stamp it in Selånger and we did stamp it in Borgsjö. And I have already stamped it in Revsund. So Tilda, please take this one to show that we have been here. Because in Revsund the stamp is tied into the box, so I couldn't bring it to our table. When you work with St. Olavsleden, what is your task? What is your mission?
I work as the project coordinator, and we, the whole project, are working continuously to develop the trail, to both in terms of the physical trail, but also a lot with the service along the trail, like accommodations, making sure that we can offer the best trail possible for all the hikers out there.
Okay, do we have any idea how many pilgrims we have along the trail for a summer, for example?
We will never know the exact amount, because some people are walking shorter paths of the trail and are not registered, but
they split it in a few paths every year, or how do we do it?
That's a common way to do it. Since the trail has so many connecting points with the train along the way, it's easy to divide it up to stages. So you can go for a week or 2 weeks, then you can take the train back to the start or forward, for example to Östersund or Trondheim, and then you come back the next year and finish it. But we also have people just using it for day trips, so we have many different users on the hike, on the trail.
And I know that people are walking, they are biking, there are a few horseback riding. And as we said, you were running it for a few years ago. How was your experience?
It was an absolutely amazing experience. I think no matter if you're running or hiking or biking, being able to kind of put yourself outside of the society for a longer amount of time, that really does something to you. You get to be away from the noise of society and the other world, and just focus on your own thoughts and find your own truth. And that can be really, really transformative. At least it was for me.
Do you have any spot, any place along the trail that has become your favorite from this trip?
Oh, that's such a hard question to answer. I get that question a lot. And for me, I think the best thing about this trail is that it has such a variation of terrain, of places, of views. And when you are hiking or running for 580 kilometers, having that kind of variation, it does so much. So I can't really tell my favorite part, but the variation of the whole part, that was my favorite thing.
Okay, it's 580 kilometers. It usually takes about 30 days if you're walking, so you need 30 days of sleeping. If you want to sleep indoors, how many accommodations, as we know of, are there?
Today we have 170 accommodations tied to our network, and you can find them on the accommodation list on the website www.Olavsleden.com. And you can also on the outdoor map, or naturkartan as we say in Swedish, it's both in Swedish and English, and then you can find the exact location of them and also more information and pictures and so on.
And when we talk about accommodation, it's not like you go from one pilgrim accommodation to another. It's a variety of accommodation along the trail. So what do you get if you go here?
Yeah, good question. It's, as you say, there are so many variations, and that I think really enriches the trail, because you can. It's all the pilgrims have different needs. They have different things they want. Some people want to stay in smaller accommodations, and some want a more luxurious experience. So it's a really good thing that we have a lot of variation along the trail. We have amazing people, trail angels along the trail, just renting out places in their rooms in their own house or guest cottages on their farms, which is really appreciated from the pilgrims as well. They get a very personal meeting and experience from them.
But you can choose all from a hotel with a 3-course dinner down to sleeping in a basement in a private house, right?
Yeah, that's right. So it's something for everyone.
Yeah. Do you know if in general pilgrims prefer a certain accommodation?
Oh, I think that it's very, very varied. Depends. But what we get a lot of positive feedback is the meeting with the hosts. That they take the time to sit down and chat with them, tell the stories of their farms and so on, and we get a lot of positive feedback. So that seems to be something that the pilgrims really, really appreciate.
If we have someone watching this who is actually having their own house along the trail and think that maybe I have a little room in my basement or I have a cottage on my farm, what should they do?
Yeah, then they are very, very welcome to contact me or my colleague Putte, who you met in the first live session. And you can find our contact information at the website on the contact list.
We are in Sweden and we will stay in Sweden for 2 more Tuesdays and then we will pass the border into Norway. Is there any differences between the accommodation in Sweden and Norway? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure. I think there are differences in all the accommodations. You will meet a different host at each one of the accommodation, and that will make the difference, I think.
I'm thinking also that if you come from Holland or Germany or England or somewhere which is not Sweden or Norway, and you need to pay for your accommodation, when you are renting a house or an apartment from a private person, it's not always working with a Visa card. How should you think when you are walking the trail and want to use accommodation?
I would say if you can't use a card, which is, as you say, with many of the smaller accommodation isn't possible, then I would say cash is king.
And it's so nice to say cash is king in this country, because usually it's not. But there are a few cash machines, and you will find them also, I think, on the Naturkartan, on the nature map. So there are some spots where you will find them.
Yeah, some of them at least.
Well, we usually talk about this trail as being the most northern pilgrim trail. It goes from coast to coast. It passes by 2 countries. If you would say, in your words, what's the thing about St. Olavsleden?
Also, there are so many things about St. Olavsleden, which is amazing. But I would say one thing that really makes it unique compared to some other pilgrim trails is that we have a country that is there's a lot of space. You have time, you have the opportunity to be on your own a lot, which is not the case on many of the larger pilgrim trails in Europe. So that is something that a lot of people, well, some doesn't appreciate and think it's lonely, but very many people think that it's a good way to be able to go inside and find that inner peace and just have your own thoughts. So I think that's really something that's unique. And also our beautiful nature, of course.
Well, as you can hear, this is a real marketing movie. Of course, we are proud of our country and we're proud of our trail, and we would like many others to come and visit us. And I would say thank you to Jenny, because I will also invite one more person who knows maybe even more about accommodation than you do. But you know Gustav, right?
Yes, we met now.
Yes. So Gustav, he is... Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Marlene.
Yeah. I've heard that it's a little bit difficult with the wind. So I will take Gustav and I will go to the side of the church. Well, welcome, Gustav.
Thank you very much.
You're in like summer dress with a hat and with the sunglasses.
Yeah, I think I thought I would take my pilgrim clothes.
This is what you wore when you were pilgrimage.
No, not really, but the hat is special.
The hat is special too.
Yeah.
We'll go all the way in the back, just because we want to get away from the wind.
Yeah.
So this is perfect. Okay, Hilda? Yeah. I've forgotten to say that usually we always say that if you have any questions, please type them and Tilda will make a sign and we will try to answer them. And you have the opportunity now with me and Gustav to do that. So Gustav, if the pilgrim wants, they can actually book a room in your place. Tell us about Bakgården, which is the name of your bed and breakfast.
Yeah, it's a former music studio actually, which I managed for 20 years. But now we converted it to a bed and breakfast, and we invite pilgrims, of course, and other persons to stay with us. And it's a beautiful red house with white sides, typical Swedish. And it's a quiet and tranquil place, which a lot of people appreciate.
I have been there, and just the area around it, and your garden, and you and your wife are growing things, and you're making bread and beer and baking, and it's like coming home, really.
Yeah, we do a lot of things, and we try to offer homemade food, for instance, which a pilgrim might not get hold of on the way, but that's people like that a lot.
When they come to you, they can have breakfast. Do they ask for dinner as well?
Yeah, most of them do actually, and we'll try to fix it if we are if we can, if you're home, and you might have other things to do, and we also work with a entrepreneur, Nordic pilgrim. His name is Revsund. He lives in the Netherlands, and he books a lot of pilgrims for us, and then it's in the booking as breakfast included and dinner, and so.
If you know him beforehand, it's usually not a problem, I guess.
No.
How many rooms do you have? How many pilgrims can stay there?
Well, we have 8 beds, 10 beds actually. We have one double room, and we have a mezzanine area with 6 beds, and then we have a glamping tent on the top of the hill behind our yard, our site. So that's 10 beds altogether.
Great, that sounds perfect. I know that you do a little other things. When I visited you, we were able to taste what you do in your brewery. What do you do more than have the bed and breakfast?
Well, I have brewed beer for 14 years now, and I do it uniquely actually at home. Before I sold my beer on restaurants, but now I sell it only at home, so that's very unique, of course. And my wife does sourdough bread, very nice bread, and then we do a lot of cooking as well. And I'm also a musician, so I play music sometimes, and my wife is a teacher.
It's what we in Swedish call mångsysslare.
Yeah.
You make a lot of things. That's the translation. You have done the pilgrimage yourself. Did you walk the whole way from St.Owner to Trondheim?
Yes, I did, but I did it in 3 parts actually, because I thought it was a bit too long to be home away from home. A month or 3 weeks, or what it takes for you to go. So I walked first. I walked from home to Åre, and then next time I walked from Åre to Trondheim, and the last time I did the first part from St.Owner to home.
What about you? Did you have a place which has connected to your heart mostly, or is it the whole trail? How do you see it?
Yeah, there is the part I love the most is up the mountain where the border to Norway, where you reach the border to Norway. It's a really beautiful path where a former king of Sweden made a road on top of the mountain for his warriors and the cannons, and and that's a really beautiful part.
Today, let's stay when you were walking yourself. How was the experience? I think you might have some kind of story or memory that you would like to share.
Yeah, I when I walk, I do other hikes as well, but most of the times I bring my tent, because I like to sleep in the tent. So I don't have so much to tell about accommodations actually on our own, of course. But I have a few stories that I would like to tell, and one is when I walked from Åre to Trondheim. I bring my own food as well, and sometimes it's hard to get food actually on the way, because there's not the shops are rare, I would say. So you have to plan it. If you walk like me, you really have to plan the route. But when I was right in the forest, and I had 1 day left to Trondheim, my food, I didn't have any food left. So I said to myself, why not be a real pilgrim? So I started walking, and I got really hungry. I picked some blueberries on the road. Then I sat down on a little bench in a village, a Norwegian village, and I was really tired. And on the side of this bench was post boxes, and suddenly this old lady came out from a house just across the road with a little stiff back, and she looked at me and she said, "Vill dere ha en brödskiva?" And that in English is that, do you want a piece of bread? Yes. So she invited me for bread and coffee, and that made my day, and then I could finish tour to Trondheim. That's a very good story, and I think you find those stories, and the pilgrims that we have, they tell us that they have similar experiences of friendly people along the road. And this pilgrimage is rather new if you compare it to other pilgrimages around the world. of course, and people are still a bit curious, and they like foreigners, so take the chance and experience that. And also have another story actually that where I myself is the hero.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
It was just down the road here in the village. I was out on my morning walk and saw this Italian guy coming with a raincoat, and he was having a trolley on the back. Very strange to be a pilgrim. Yeah. So he had to avoid all the forests, and he couldn't walk there to take the bike trails. Yeah. He was a bit lost, and he asked me about a shop. No, there's no shop in 30 kilometers. I said, oh, I have no food, he said. And, I couldn't do anything. I just talked to him a while, and then I said goodbye. And when I got home, we had some leftovers in the fridge, and we had a pair of bikers sleeping overnight. So I asked them to take the leftovers to this guy, and they did, and he was so glad about that, because they met him on their route. And then 1 month later, I had a call from Italy, and his wife called me and thanked me and said I was an angel. Isn't that a good story?
It's a really good story, especially that the wife called, because he definitely told her the story when he got back home. How you spent the night in tent? That's what I was going to ask you about. But so far, how many pilgrims this year have stayed in Bakgården, in your place?
Well, it's the beginning of the season, I would say, and the best period to walk is actually June, beginning of June until end of June, I would say. You have all the flowers. It's very beautiful. Everything is green, and
But I usually say you also get the mosquitoes if you walk in June.
Yeah, that's true. There's lots of mosquitoes this year, actually, but there's repellents and stuff that you can use. So far, we had only 7, actually. Yeah.
But as you said, it's been a really, really early summer for us. So usually you don't start walking until the beginning of June, which is now. But then you can continue, I think, till the end of September. And September, I would say, is quite a beautiful time too.
Yes, it is. It's when the trees turn red and yellow. It's very, very, and the sky is clear and nice to breathe. Yeah. So that's a good time too, yeah.
Your name of the bed and breakfast that you have, Bakgården, if you would translate it, it would be the backyard. Why the name?
Well, it's a double meaning, because bak means to bake bread, as I told you, and my wife does that. And bak is also on the backside, and the bakery is on the backside of the farm. So that's the name.
Well, good story, and thank you so much. When is your next pilgrim coming to stay in your bed and breakfast?
It's tomorrow night, actually. It's a couple from the Netherlands. And then we have a few others this week. So, yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
Yes, it's nice. Yeah. I would say that I've never met a pilgrim that we didn't like. They're all very, very friendly, and they like our place. It's tranquil, and they appreciate that. So it's nice meetings.
And I guess you have the personal meeting and you talk to each other. What's your experience of the reason for why people are walking the trail?
I would say it's a health thing for most of the hikers, the pilgrims. Some are really religious and do it because of that, but I would say the health thing is the biggest.
But then I think the health within inside you, maybe not fitting the body.
No, of course, it's both, to walk a whole day on your own or with your friend, and to be able to have space for your thoughts that's really meditating and good for your health, mental health. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gustav, for joining us this evening. And talking about these pilgrims, now both Gustav and Jenny actually did do the pilgrimage, so we got their experience. But the next Tuesday, we are definitely hoping to get one of the pilgrims who are doing the trail at this moment to join us. We will hopefully make sure that he actually is in Revsund and Östersund at that time, because that's where we will be. And apart from meeting one or two pilgrims, we will the next Tuesday talk a little bit more about all man's right, allemansrätten, which I think you have heard about, kind of the unwritten law of nature in this country, which makes you be able to put up your tent and walk almost wherever, but with some restrictions that you have to take out of from your heart. And of course we will see the Church of Frösön, who is situated where you can actually for the first time see the Swedish and Norwegian mountains. So thank you so much for joining us this night, and we will see you again next Tuesday.